still be happy. You can do whatever you like. You don't have to be ready.
Hey cuties, and welcome back to another video, or welcome if you're new. I'm Cora, and today I am back with another CC haul. We're gonna have a look at over 200 CC items for both your male and female Sims today. So, we're gonna be here for a minute. As always with these videos, you can find links to everything in the description down below. Of course, I also added categories and numbers to this video, as I always do with my CC hauls, so it should be very easy for you to find what you want from this CC haul. And yeah, since I said this video is gonna be pretty long, we're gonna be here for like 25-ish minutes, so just a little warning, grab a snack, grab a drink, grab a whole meal, grab whatever you need to get comfortable and just have a little chat with me for the next 25-ish minutes. It's been a while since the last video, and as some of you might know, there was a very tragic death in my family. I have done a little post on the community tab on my channel if you're really interested in it. I did also talk about it on my Discord channel just because I felt like I had to say something. It just felt like I wanted to say something to what happened. I didn't go into like extreme detail though, and I don't plan on doing that anytime soon. Maybe my mind changes about that. I have thought about doing a short little video in which I just talk about what happened, but for some reason I don't know, it just didn't feel like something I was ready to do right now or I wanted to do right now. But it was a very devastating time or event for my family, and I have noticed after that loss that I don't know, there's just a very interesting phenomenon I have like noticed within myself during that time, where I thought grieving for someone or grieving someone's loss is such a surreal time, especially because I feel like the days after you don't really know what to do with yourself. I felt weirdly guilty when I did something that I enjoyed, like if I went to play a video game, or if I read, or if I talked to someone and I had a moment of like laughter or whatever. I felt really guilty about that, and that's such a silly thing because I feel like, I don't know, like it's probably not how everyone feels after a loss like that when they're grieving, but I personally struggle a lot with like feeling that people judge me, it's like something that has been with me for a while. I always feel judged. It's very tricky sometimes, and it was no different during the last few weeks. And I felt like whenever I did something that didn't fit into someone else's view of a grieving person, I felt guilty because I was like, I am grieving, I am sad, but there's obviously also moments during the day where you do something for enjoyment or whatever. It doesn't do you any, well, maybe it does, but for me, it was good to sit down and play a video game that I enjoyed or whatever, because for me, grieving comes in waves. So I might seem okay for like an hour, and I can do something and focus on something and just, have fun with what I'm doing. And then an hour later, the sadness hits me and I'm just like crying for hours on end. And I just kind of like wanted to take the grieving process as it is. It was very hard for me to just do that because I didn't, obviously having like a YouTube channel and being active on Discord as well, I didn't feel like I could or wanted to just be gone for 3 weeks and then come back without saying anything. That just felt wrong because, as you know, I'm always extremely open with everything regarding my life, the happy and the bad, like all of my mental health things I discuss on this channel because I think it is important to talk about it and, have a conversation about it and inform people about it, or have other people see that I struggle with it so they either see something in themselves and seek help for it or whatever. I think it's just good to get the stigma away from mental health. And I thought grieving and losing someone in your family can also be a really big taboo for some reason. It's very hard, I noticed, to tell people what happened. Like whenever it comes up and you tell people, Like I said, I don't want to go into like specifics because I would have to do like a huge trigger warning because it was extremely devastating. That's why, like, if you're interested in it, you can see the post that I did in the community tab. But after something like that, at times it kind of comes up in conversation because someone asks about it, and I felt really weird being like, yeah, that person passed, because it just felt like such a taboo, and you feel guilty for putting that onto another person, which in my opinion is so awful. Like, awful things happen to you, and then it's super weird that we feel like we can't tell other people because we don't want them to feel awkward to react to it. It's just a very weird limbo that you're in, I feel like, or that I was in. I don't know if, obviously I don't know if everyone feels like that. I'm sure there's people who can't relate at all, but for me, as a person who's very self-conscious and has a lot of issues with like social interactions at times, it felt like I couldn't tell people about it because I felt guilty for them having to react to me telling them about the loss. And I have noticed that it's definitely something that stems from my childhood or teenage years. I have only talked about it briefly on the channel, but I lost my dad when I was a teenager, and ever since then I felt like, you know, if you told people, obviously I was young, so all of my friends were young as well, and if you told them, it was always just this awkward like, okay, like they didn't know what to do. And I think I carried that into adulthood, that whenever something tragic happens in my life, I feel very weird telling other people about it because I don't want to like burden them with what happened in my life. But obviously that is like really sad because people who are close to you obviously want to know and like help you out, or even just say some kind words. And at this point I definitely have to thank all of you who left kind words for me in like the community tab or on Discord. It was so sweet to see that people like think about you during those times, and about my family as well. It was just heartwarming, and it's just so nice when like strangers reach out in a time of like grief and sadness. It was just, you know, a little bit of a tiny light that was like something happy. But yeah, I felt also, like I said, really guilty about doing things that were fun to me. I felt weird about getting back into YouTube because I didn't know how long I needed. Like, I definitely needed a few uploads that I needed to skip to get back to a place where I can record videos. And I feel like if you watch my videos frequently, you can definitely tell from like my tone of voice and stuff that I'm not as upbeat as I was, or as I usually am in my videos. It's just that I don't want to force things. That's why I definitely wanted to talk about it a little bit in this video. Just, it felt weird going from telling you about the loss to a video that's like very upbeat. But to be honest, people should just be able, after an event like that, to just work and do the content or whatever, however they feel like doing it. It shouldn't be something that we worry about, that if I am too upbeat, I worry about people not believing me that I grieve or whatever. It's just such a silly thing, and I wish that wasn't even happening, but it does to me. You know, I was like, how many weeks do I need to take off to not seem like a heartless bitch? But excuse my French. But that shouldn't be the issue, you know, because some people, when they grieve, it really helps them to go back to work, you know, get back into the real life and see that not everything has changed for them, or like distract themselves or whatever. And like video games were like a huge distraction for me because, like I said, my grief came in waves, and I was like, if I can just get an hour away from being extremely sad and crying my eyes out and playing a video game, why do I feel so guilty about that? It doesn't mean I am grieving less or I loved the person who passed less, you know, but it felt like that for me, and I definitely think people can relate to that. And then obviously it's a different situation on top of that if you do something online, because people wait for your videos and they want to know what's going on. And I didn't want to leave you guys just hanging because, like I said, I share everything with you, and stuff like that happens. Those things, like the loss that I experienced, it's things that people experience, and if no one ever talks about it, I feel like, I don't know, it's like with the mental health, you know, it just becomes a taboo and people don't talk about it, and I don't think that ever helps. Like, I don't think not talking about something ever really helps. And if I just open up about stuff like that, maybe it will help another person during their grieving process. And I don't know, I just felt like I had to mention it, but I don't know, it didn't feel right to me to do a whole video dedicated to that one thing and talk about what exactly happened. I can't really explain why. It was just a feeling. I thought about it for the last few weeks. I was like, how do I get back into this? Because it didn't feel right to just do a video and not talk about it. And it also didn't feel right to make a whole video just dedicated to what happened, because a lot of it is private information that I don't feel like I have the right to share. It was a lot, and I feel like grieving is such a weird time because, like I said, for almost everyone it comes and goes in waves, and I definitely thought about this for a while because I was like, maybe I just feel like I'm being judged for how I grieve. But as you guys know, I'm like also into like true crime things. It just interests me. I study psychology as well, so it just kind of interests me what drives a person to do certain things. And I feel like whenever I watch cases or listen to cases of a missing person, I feel like when their spouse reacts in a way that you don't expect from someone grieving, if they don't like fall to their knees and have a mental breakdown and crying about their spouse missing, I feel like they instantly become suspicious, which to me is such BS because we know that people react so differently to grief, and a lot of times in the first few days you're just kind of at denial that anything happened because it doesn't seem real. It just seems like something, like there's a glitch in the matrix and everything will go back to normal within a few days. You can't fully comprehend what happened. And also, like me, for example, I am a very personal crier, so like whenever I am in a situation with other people, I find it very hard to fully feel my grief and cry and whatever. I usually just hold up my composure and like I try to be there for everyone else who's grieving, because I feel like everyone around me fell apart when said thing happened, and I just felt like I needed to be there for everyone. And then when I got home, it was when like everything really unraveled and I just laid in bed and cried for hours. And I feel like, if someone in my life went missing, I would definitely be the person who, in front of cameras or in front of the police, I'd probably cry a little bit, but I wouldn't, be super devastated, because that is something that I do on my own in like my own private rooms, because that's where I feel most comfortable to like let the sadness hit me. I don't know, does that make sense? But I just, for that reason, I was so afraid that I was going to be judged for how I grieve, or if I'm doing it right or wrong. And there is no right or wrong when it comes to grieving, because as different as we all are, we grieve differently. Some people might need a lot of distraction and might need a lot of social interaction, and I kind of feel like a lot of introverts need like the opposite. And it's something that I really needed to, with my family, talk about, that I was like, I just need more downtime with myself. I just need to let the grief take me and like do whatever feels good in the moment. But I really just wanted to be alone, to be honest. Also, my boyfriend did manage to reschedule his vacation or his holiday to come visit me, and that also really helped, especially because I got a new roommate who is the daughter of a friend of my mom's, who's here in the city to do like an internship for 6 months, so she needed a place to stay. And oh my god, my apartment looked a mess because I was so busy, and then the grieving came, and like I just did not have the energy in me to clean. And then my boyfriend came, and he was like very sweet and helped me with everything, no questions asked, and it was very nice to have that support. It was very helpful, and it's it's good in times like that to know that you're not alone. But I definitely noticed that when he was here, I didn't grieve as hard. Does that make sense? Like, I didn't feel as many emotions as when he left, because like I said, I'm just more of like a private person when it comes to grief. Like, I need to be by myself to fully feel it. And when he was here, it was just a great distraction. But if I would just distract myself for all eternity, it at some points it hits you. You know, you need to work through your grief. You can't just pretend it didn't happen and like ignore it and just distract yourself with other things. You need to learn some way to like cope with it. And I think because what happened was very traumatic and like very sudden and a very big loss for the family. And I feel like I was kind of prepared for it because I obviously had like a very traumatic loss when I was a teenager of losing my dad. And I feel like I kind of knew what to expect in a sense. That's why I was able to be there for my family and like help them through it. And then after, when I got home, I was also able to grieve because I was like, I can't just push this aside and ignore that I'm sad, because if I do that, it just hits you. You know, maybe not weeks, maybe not months later, but maybe years later it hits you and you could have like a mental breakdown or whatever. And I feel like society also doesn't give people enough time to grieve, because in most countries, and I find this absolutely crazy, in most countries your work only gives you off like a very short amount of time when you lose a family member, and it gets even worse when it's like not a very closely related family member. Like I think if something happened to my sister, I don't even know if I could get any time off if I was just employed in Germany, because there is very strict rules. It has to be like first degree related. I don't know how you call it in English. But it has to be very closely related. I think it's only like your parents or your own children. And I think that is so, I don't know, that's just such BS, you know, because if something happened to my sister, why would I need less time off than if something happened to any other family members, you know? You can be close to like any of your family members or your friends or like your partners or whatever, because my boyfriend also couldn't get time off properly to help me out because we're not married. But if we would have been married, it would have been a different situation, which to me doesn't make sense, because if you're married or not doesn't change the way you feel about a person or the way a person needs you during a time like that. And I wish society wasn't so focused on like having members work super hard and never get time off for anything, but actually be more social and realize how much grief can destroy you and how like you need some time off. Maybe go to therapy, maybe work it. Oh my god, I'm sorry, that is the cat and she wants food. Maybe work through it with friends or whatever. But you know, everyone should be allowed to take the time off that they need for grieving. Also the cats, this is a whole nother topic. This little kitty that you can hear right now, they're definitely great. Like I have to admit, animals for grieving, they're like godsend. Honestly, it was just so nice to have cats here to stroke. And I've talked about this like in a few last videos that I have a second foster right now who is supposed to befriend the other foster I had, who was very shy and not in a good state when I got him. And oh my god, they have been so cute together, but she is like really mischievous. Like she literally jumps into my fridge. I open it for a second and she's like in there, which no cat before has ever done. Also, she is crazy about food. Like she wants to eat anything. The other day I had like tomato soup and she dunked her paw in it and I didn't expect it, so I had to like wipe off her paw. And she's just crazy about food. And I feel like things like that really, I don't know, they really light up your world and make the grieving process so much easier, because you also have something to do. You know, I couldn't just lay in bed and feel bad for myself all day because I had cats to take care of. And I don't know, I feel like animals give you so much, and it sounds so cheesy. I feel like a lot of what I said sounded cheesy, but I meant it. It's just, like I said, I wish we as a society would accept grief more as a part of life and time where you don't have the ability to work. Because, for example, most people, if they experience something like that, they just go to a doctor and get a sick leave, because every doctor is like, yeah, that was a traumatic experience, you can get time off. But I don't get how your employees can't be like employees. No, how your bosses can't be like accepting that it's a devastating time and you just need some days off of work. some people probably don't. And I don't, I just want people to be able to grieve the way that they want to without anyone judging them. If that is like working through it or not working or crying a lot or not crying or being angry or whatever. It's just so important that we let people grieve the way that they need to in order for them to feel better eventually. And my way, honestly, I have learned is just to kind of be by myself with myself. It's okay if there's like people around, especially my boyfriend. I didn't want to be like without him the first few days. I really did not want him to leave me. He couldn't come over straight away, unfortunately, so we were just, video calling, and I didn't want him to leave. Like, it was very hard for me to be alone even just for a few minutes, but I also didn't feel like talking a lot. I just wanted to watch something and play something and just kind of take my mind off of things, but have him there, and I've just noticed that that is like the best way for me, which is, to be honest, also how I take care of my mental health. Like, if I have a very bad day, I like him to be there, like, not in the background, but like, I don't want to talk. I usually don't feel like talking a lot when I don't feel well, which is crazy, I know, since I'm like super talkative. And I'm sure you know that because we've been 20 minutes into this video and there hasn't been a moment where I was like, oh, I don't know what to say anymore. Also, the cats are now taking apart my carpet, so I think they are also like, core, this video has been going on for too long. I want to get food. And oh my god, she just brought in a potato again. This is the weirdest thing. I keep the potatoes like, oh my god, just playing with a potato. I keep my potatoes like under the kitchen island. And this morning I woke up and there was just a freaking potato under my desk. And I was like, where did this even come from? But yeah, now that I see her play with it, she must have gotten it into this room and played with a freaking potato, which, cool. I don't know, they have enough toys, I promise. They have about like 20 little balls that they could play with, or little mice toys, but apparently a potato is more fun to play with. Who knew? Who would have known? But also, yeah, I didn't mention this video was supposed to go up like 3 weeks ago, so it's not the newest of the newest CC items, which usually my CC hauls feature like everything from the last 2 weeks, because I try to upload them every 2 weeks, but that just means that the next CC haul, which I am hopefully either gonna get up this Friday or next week on Friday, is gonna be absolutely ginormous, because I haven't been CC shopping in the last 3 weeks or something like that. And I definitely had a little sneak peek when I went on Tumblr of like creators who have uploaded things, and it all looks very cute and I'm very excited to get back into it. But I didn't want to let this video go to waste, because I was like, I already had downloaded all of the CC items, I made a list, and I always show you everything that I put in my game. I feel like that way it's just easier. If you ever look for a certain thing that is in my game, you can always like go back into the CC holes and find it. And I just like to update you on what I have. I also think it's great for me, like if I ever for some reason lose my CC folders, I have all of these videos to go back to and be like, okay, this is what I had in game. So I can, backtrack it and get it all back if I had to. And I didn't want to not show you this stuff, because there's some really gorgeous items. There were also a lot of things for your male sims this time, which a lot of times they don't get as much love as the female sims. So I'm glad that in this CC haul there is a lot of tops and bottoms for your male sims. And yeah, with that said, I can't believe I actually talked through 24 minutes already. Like, I was honestly, real talk, very nervous to get back into this and then get back into with a 25-minute video, and then also obviously having like the task at hand of kind of talking about what happened, but not really, because I don't want to trigger anyone and I don't want to go into details about it. So I hope today's video was somewhat enjoyable. I mean, it was a very rough topic, so yeah, I hope it was just good to hear what happened or what I have been through. And I am just so glad to be back. Honestly, I have missed making videos, and I think if I didn't have the stigma around it, I might have thrown out a few more videos here and there just to get my mind off of things, have a bit of like my regular life back into my current life. But You know, with that said, I am officially back. I can't promise how many videos I will upload throughout these next weeks because it's kind of unpredictable how I feel, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed the CC that I showed you guys today, and as always, if you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you all next time. Bye!
You say you don't wanna get in trouble, that you doing fine cause you got me. I don't wanna break your little bubble, but you gotta wake up to reality. Cause I can see in your eyes, your head is full of dreams. Tears are a proof of failure, you just gotta let them flow without judge. There's so many ways to be happy.